Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gaiman, and this is your Shriners Hospitals for Children Open Megapod, breaking it all down. Joining me, Mark Immelman is on the scene of some golf course. Mark, where are you at?
Can you believe I'm on a golf course? I'm at the Country Club of Columbus. It's a fundraising golf day for a local school that me and my team, the Columbus State University, help out at. And so I've been here since the morning. Everything's going well. It's a nice fall day here in Columbus. Little breeze, like I told you, the wind starts to blow like it does in the fall here. And there's a Donald Ross place. We've got a bunch of them around here, so it's been good fun.
I love it. And Kyle Porter on the scene of his car. Is that where you're at, KP?
Yeah, it's week 3 of homelessness for me. You know, Mark Hubbard, his Twitter handle is Homeless Hubs. I might need to change mine to Homeless Ports because that's what it feels like right now. But no, we're good. I'm ready for the Shriners. Yeah, it'll be good.
If you want to see the sights, you can give us a watch on YouTube at First Cut Podcast. Don't forget, in the Apple Podcast reviews, drop your 5-star rating and review. Any questions you want to hear about, what kind of car does KP drive, all that good stuff, we'll answer it in exchange for a 5-star rating and review. Gentlemen, we're in Vegas. The Vegas swing is upon us, week 1 of 2, and with the CJ Cup next week, a lot of these big name golfers have shown up here at TPC Summerlin. And KP, this is one of the strongest fields we've seen in tournament history. Bryson is here, Colin Morikawa, Webb Simpson, Patrick Cantlay, of course. I mean, this is an impressive one.
Yeah, I think 8 of the top 20, 13 of the top 30 in the world. And I wonder how much of it is that Augusta is 5 weeks away. And I wonder how much of it is, I was reading an article today on PGAtour.com, and this was kind of cheesy, but Maverick McNeely said that people are calling Vegas kind of the Jupiter of the West, which I was like, I've literally never heard that. Who's actually calling it that? But I wonder, like Morikawa lives there. Whenever we interviewed him, he was at his house out there. Yeah. I read that Xander's moving out there. There's a lot of guys that have started kind of moving in that direction. So I wonder how much of it is just close, being close to home. A lot of those guys are playing in that event this week. So regardless, it's awesome. And like I said on Sunday, I wrote about this on Monday. Bryson is the storyline in golf right now, not just for Shriners, not just for what he did at the U.S. Open, but with Augusta National coming up, like he is the biggest narrative in the sport, bigger than Tiger, bigger than all of it. And we get to see kind of the next step in that evolution this week, which I think will be fascinating.
I think you hit on a really interesting point there. And I want to get Mark's take on this. Mark, when we had 91 days off, and we talked a lot about how the new schedule was going to be impacted. I mean, it was a sprint, right? I mean, we had all the big name players. We had some of the strongest fields ever at Colonial and then Heritage, and it just kept going. We're still feeling those ramifications. Kyle's right. We're 5 weeks out from Augusta. There is still a ripple effect of scheduling for these guys.
There certainly is. But the good news for the folks like Bryson and company, they've had a little time off post playoffs and they've dodged events like Napa and Mississippi and such, but you're getting to a place now, to Kyle's point, where certain guys like to play leading into major championships. So it's the good sort of time to break out the clubs and at least start shaking off the rust as you get into competition. And the one thing about Summerlin, the greens roll pretty fast, the wind can blow a little bit around there, and whereas there's not much rough, it sort of lets you hit a driver a little bit. So from that point of view, even though it's not Augusta National, there are similarities to the way that one would approach the golf course. So this week, I'm not really surprised given Vegas, given the quality of the golf course, because this event has drawn in the past some good fields and it's had some great winners. So it's a great time in the schedule, and these guys can start making a little hay as they make their way to Augusta.
Let's dive into the Beefy one, who is going to be in a bombs away group with Cameron Champ and Matthew Wolff for the first 2 days. Kyle, it's a shame there's going to be no fans out there to see this, because that's going to be an absolute stripe show.
How often do you think Wolff is the shortest guy in his group?
Maybe every time, right?
No, but I mean
like never. Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. Like only these two guys.
I mean, it's really incredible, and we get a little U.S. Open redux with Bryson and Wolff. Did those pairings just come out, by the way? I haven't seen them.
It was featured groups, so we have featured groups. I don't have all the pairings yet.
Gotcha. Yeah, now that'll be fun. I think that. I mean, again, like I think that my focus this week so far has been on Bryson, and I think that they're like for good reason, right? But there's a ton of huge names in this field. Right, like there's Morikawa, there's Wolff, there's Fowler, there's Finau, there's Webb, Francesco Molinari. We're going to talk about in a little bit, but yeah, that will be the group to watch, mostly because of how the U.S. Open ended with Bryson and Wolff being paired together on Sunday. And I think as much as we talk about Bryson, and we should, I think what Wolff is doing is going to get a little. It's going to get run over a little bit, but it shouldn't. He's 21 years old. He has 2 top 5s in his only 2 major championship starts. He's not in the Masters, is he? I don't think he's in that.
I don't know that. I don't think so.
Or maybe he is. Maybe he did get it. Maybe it was Hovland that wasn't in. Somebody can look that up. But he's really, I think, he talked about this at the U.S. Open, where he's going to go back to just mentally playing the way he did in college. I think you get out on the PGA Tour and you start thinking, oh, well, I gotta do stuff different because it's the PGA Tour. And it's like, no, just be who you are. And I think that he has done that at the PGA, at the U.S. Open. And so I think he is in the Masters. Thank you, producer Jacob. I think it was Hovland that I was thinking of that's not in the Masters, even though he's like 31 in the world. But yeah, I think Wolff is super interesting at 21 to see how, like, where he goes from those 2 top 5s in major championships. I think you have to start thinking about him as a threat every single week.
It's interesting. I wonder what other players are thinking of Bryson as a threat, because Mark, we were talking about this. The buzz just before we went live is Rory McIlroy making the rounds on Twitter for taking a swing and having 191 mile an hour ball speed. Says the first time he's ever broken 190. We might be in the midst of an arms race right now.
Look, it's been an arms race since golf was being played because the power game lends itself to the advantage. And there's a select few that can generate that sort of energy and still hit it accurately like Bryson does, and how Rory and DJ and a few guys do. But yeah, you're always sort of expecting that Bryson would tickle the egos of some of the power guys on the tour. And so there'll be that going on. But the truth of it is, every PGA Tour range you go to, every practice range you go to, guys are trying to maximize. They're fiddling around with new golf club designs. They're changing shafts. They're changing golf balls. They're looking for mixes, and they're looking for changes in their technique or whatever it might be, their physique even, to get the most out of what they do. But there's that handful of folks, maybe more, that can get those sorts of speeds. And I got to tell you, I think average on the PGA Tour, correct me if I'm wrong, is sort of in the 170 range. So 190 is pretty special ball speed wise.
Kyle, I'm not sure if you saw this morning. It just came out before we kind of started recording this Rory McIlroy stuff. And do you think it's interesting that Bryson DeChambeau spent 9 months, put on 35 pounds, drank 8 protein shakes a day to get to the numbers that he's at, and then Tony Finau swung a little bit harder, and Rory opened up his stance a little bit, added a new shaft, and is like kind of getting to the same point. Isn't that interesting that some of these guys just have this in reserves?
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I think what's so telling about this Bryson stuff, and again, I keep going back to like, is changing like the trajectory of golf history. It's not radically like reorienting golf to like this, whatever. But I think that it is changing it a little bit, and I think you see the result of that with stuff like this. And I don't know, maybe not, man. Like maybe in 3 years we're sitting here talking about how nothing really changed at all and everything kind of stayed the same. But it does feel like things are shifting a little bit. And guys like Rory and DJ and Finau are like, okay, if you want to play that game, then let's go ahead, and that's how we're going to play now, and see if you can keep up with it. And I think I think Bryson can, because I think he's going to think more unconventionally and in more absurd ways than those guys are, and commit himself to those things. I don't. This sounds crazy. I don't know if Rory can hang with Bryson. Not like, obviously I like watching Rory swing more than Bryson, but is Rory going to commit to gaining 40 pounds and like doing all these absurd things that Bryson will like clearly do to gain the distance? I don't think he will. And I don't think, as a human, I don't know that you necessarily should. But it's going to be so interesting over the next couple of years, I think.
Hey, just a quick point to that. The leverage that Rory creates is uncanny. He and Tony Finau have those sorts of levers, and there's one or two other that make it look effortless, and they generate that sort of speed, where Bryson's golf swing wasn't really built to that. So he had to use more with the force equals mass times acceleration for kilowatts, basically. And so Rory has that. But the truth of it is, this is, the power race has been happening for a while. I mean, we saw that exhibition match there at Paynes Valley, where there's Gary Player asking Jack Nicklaus for a golf tip to hit the thing farther before they go and hit the ceremonial tee shot. So everyone's always been trying to hit the ball longer. The thing about it is that we're all talking about the driver, but the truth of it still is that you've got to parlay that long tee shot into some sort of score. And so, that's what Bryson did well. He had the power off the tee, but hit proper wedges. Rory, there's the wedge game, by his own admission, has been an Achilles heel as such, and he's improved that over recent times. So I'm keen to see now, if he's chasing the speed and he's making changes to the driver shaft and obviously the golf ball, what the knock-on effect is to the wedge. Because the guy who's done it, I think the best, arguably, is Dustin Johnson. He had the speed, but became great when he started hitting really good wedge shots. Justin Thomas, same deal. So I think there's more to it than just the power off the tee, honestly.
Yeah, Twitter was, a Twitter this morning, and basically the joke was, are we sure that Rory wants to hit more wedges closer to the green? Like, is that the strategy he wants to go with? Which is not that bad of an idea.
Here's the thing, like, Rory wants to get into a competition where every shot is from 240. Like in that scenario, he wins, right? When everything's from like 110, he's not going to win. Justin Thomas is going to win. DJ is gonna be good in that scenario. So that's a really interesting point, and I think I don't know. I'm so fascinated by all of this because I think it's super interesting, and I think that we almost can't make too big of a deal out of it, because I think we're going to look back and say that's when things started really shifting a lot, even more so than they had been over the past 10 or 20 years.
Yeah. Should be fascinating. Also very interested to see what in the world Francesco Molinari does this week at TPC Summerlin, because he is back in the field. And if you haven't been paying attention, the last time that we saw Molinari was the WGC Mexico Championship. That was in February. He was ranked 26th in the world after that event. Mark, he has not played since. He is now ranked 73rd. I think he's been moving the family to California, I believe. Obviously, we had the 91-day break and all that stuff. But, like, I don't know. What are the expectations for Molinari, and are there any?
I don't know. I mean, players always have expectations of themselves, but he'll probably go into this with low expectation, because, it's a huge step from the driving range and your club golf course to a PGA Tour event and a Thursday morning tee time. So from that point of view, I'm not expecting much. I'm sure he isn't, but I'm sure during the off time he's went and identified one or two things that needed some tightening up, because the truth of it is, he went through that torrid tear where he was like an assassin with a ball striking, en route to the Open Championship victory and that run when I called that 64, where he dusted the field, the final round of the Quicken Loans National around Avenel, just outside of DC, which was an unreal round. And the guy just flagged it on every single shot. And it looked like he was almost robotic, with the swing speed and the ball striking. And he had that vein of form. There was that special thing that everyone looks for. But then the game sort of went a little sour, and the putting was a little off the mark, and the ball striking wasn't really there. And so I think maybe for Molinari, this was a time to sort of restart, recalibrate, recheck, and get one or two things ironed out. So I'm certain from that point of view that he did, because he's that sort of a guy. I'm just not sure, what to expect under pressure.
KP, he's only, I mean, there's the historical turning point, right? Is 2019 Masters, right? It's like, what was Molinari before and what was Molinari after? That's what everyone's going to point to, because he won API a couple weeks before the Masters. He was in the Final Four at the match play. And then after, I mean, he's only played 18 times since, which for like Sungjae, that would have been 18 weeks worth, not 18 months worth. So I think it's just, a subplot that I'm very interested to see, not necessarily this week, but what he does moving forward, because we're not, in theory, that far removed from some of these dominating performances that Mark referenced.
Sorry, I'm just sitting here thinking about what Finau and Rory are going to try to do at Augusta. No, you're right. And yeah, he doesn't have a top 10 since the Masters. He finished T5. And it's weird, right? Like, I think that we see, like typically, and we talked about this a little bit with Sergio, you have this sort of hangover after winning your first major championship. And Molinari didn't have that, because he wins the Open in 18, and then he comes back and nearly wins the 19 Masters. And so the joke is obviously that, like, Tiger, like, ended his life and put it, you know, he's still floating down the creek or whatever. But the whole thing is just, I was reading some of his quotes today, like, and I think this was something he put out on social media, like, hey, I didn't retire, like, there was a life change, I moved my family to California. It feels like there's more to the story, and I don't know if, I have no idea if that's true. I don't know if anything will ever come out. Maybe he's just, I think sometimes you win that major and you just, I don't know, you kind of ascend the mountain, and then it's like, okay, you start looking around, what's next? And again, like, that didn't really happen to him because he was still competitive for like a year after that. But yeah, it's been a weird last 18 months for Francesco Molinari. He's outside the top 70 now.
Yeah, interesting to see what trajectory he's on moving forward. We have a PGA Championship this week, the BMW PGA Championship on the European Tour, going to Wentworth, which this is always a great event. It has a stacked field. The co-favorites, Patrick Reed and Tommy Fleetwood at 11-1. You get Terrell Hatton, Matthew Fitzpatrick, Justin Rose, Shane Lowry. It's a lot of great names. Mark, I'll throw this to you again. I think this is just a great event on another tour. This is a worldwide sport that is not only played in North America. No matter how much I want it to be, there is great golf going on the rest of the planet.
I tell you what, this event will long be one of my favorites. I think it was probably one of my first I ever went to on the European Tour. It was still the Volvo PGA Championship back in the day, and I'm dating myself, I know. But you know, Wentworth is just a fantastic golf course. It's become even better since Ernie Els redesigned it a few years ago. It's just in a beautiful area, Surrey, outside of London. I mean, it smacks golf. It is just all golf when you get there, from that majestic palatial-looking clubhouse to a golf course that wends its way between the hardwoods over there. So it's a great spot. It's always going to be one of the jewels in the European Tour's crown, and proof of the fact is that, you know, the European stars show up for the thing, and they hold this event in high regard. And if you go and look at the list of champions, it's essentially a who's who of golf. I mean, you've got Ballesteros and Norman and Felder and Monty and all of these sorts of names that are all Hall of Famers. So it's a great one. It's one that I will wake up early to watch on the European Tour, and it brings back fantastic memories. And it's just an awesome golf course that, to me, does a great job of identifying the best player in the field, because you're not going to scrub your way around that place and contend. That's one thing for certain.
I think that's my takeaway too, Mark and Kyle. That's a testament to the course, to the event, when you get the stars, and not only the European Tour stars, but hey, Patrick Reed hops a flight. He's headed over to play. The fact that you can draw this year in and year out, I think, is a testament to everything they've got going on over there.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, 2 PGA championships this weekend, because the ladies PGA championship is at Iran. So there you go. Yeah, it's great. By the way, lifetime European Tour member Patrick Reed. I think we should refer to him as Sir Patrick Reed.
Hey, but you get that stuff if you win a major championship. If you win a major, you become a lifetime member over there. So that works.
Really?
Yeah. My brother's a lifetime member as well. And you can take that up and play for a little while if you've lost your playing privileges. That's basically how it works.
Hey, producer Jacob, look this up. Isn't Reed like a he got some like honorary like some weird thing for the European Tour that only like Ernie Els and Sergio had gotten or something like that. It was bizarre. This was like 3 years ago. Producer Jacob will look it up, but yeah, like it's a great event and it's going to be a ton of fun. Fleetwood's coming in off of a playoff loss last week. He lost the Scottish Open to Aaron Rye. Don't know how to say his name, but
Rye.
I'm always intrigued whenever Tommy Fleetwood's playing well. So I think Tommy Fleetwood, Wentworth, BMW PGA Championship should be a lot of fun.
It is an honorary lifetime membership to the European Tour. There are only 3 other Americans to receive the honor: Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Tom Watson, and Patrick Reed. That's a Mount Rushmore of American golf.
Yeah. Yeah. Forget
Tiger Woods.
Wait. Yeah, no Tiger. Yeah, that's unreal.
That's phenomenal. So there you go. Honorary lifetime member of the European Tour, Patrick Reed. Gentlemen, we've got matchups to do. We've got expert picks. We've got one and done and best bets. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners. And we're back. We have said goodbye to Mark Immelman, who you can find on Twitter at Mark_Immelman. And we're bringing in the real GFD. That's Greg Ducharme. What's up, Greg?
Happy to join in. Happy to fill in for Mark. And I'm here for the good stuff. So thanks for bringing me in.
You guys are a tag team. He tagged you in. You're ready to rock and roll.
It's been a while since I've seen him. I haven't gotten a chance to wish him happy birthday yet.
Oh, well, you're like a week late, so you'll have to get on that. All right, here we go. Match ups. Bryson DeChambeau, the beefy boy, -135 versus Webb Simpson. Greg, you get to go first.
Man, does it get so it doesn't get more challenging than this. I'm gonna go Webb here, and I'll tell you why. I think Webb has a higher floor. I think Bryson has a really good chance of winning the tournament, but if he doesn't win, then I don't think he beats Webb. I think Webb's going to put himself right there in the mix. And Bryson, I think, is maybe there's a really good chance he wins, but he could also, if he doesn't win, I think it's less likely that he has as high a finish as Webb. So I'm going to go with the steady guy in Webb Simpson.
He's going to go with the floor. Kyle, who do you like?
Yeah, that's a good explanation. As much as I want to pick the big boy, I'm going to go with Webster as well.
All right, well, I don't want to spoil anything for later, but I will take the big boy. I'll take Bryson, and we'll get Mark's pick later. Patrick Cantlay, who has absolutely dominated TPC Summerlin. Okay, here's a question. In like a 3-year stretch, who has similar history anywhere as Cantlay? So like Spieth at Augusta, maybe Hideki at Waste Management. I'm trying to think of another. Kyle, we'll go to you here. Patrick Cantlay -118 versus Tony Finau -112.
Webb at Wyndham.
Webb at Wyndham. Yeah.
I like Finau here. He's going to be, spoiler for later, one of my handful of picks. I think the Cantlay history thing gets a little overblown. He's been. I don't think he's been his normal self recently. He's been fine. He just hasn't been quite up to what his standards are. And I think people are going to look at the 1-2-2 and think, oh, lights out. And I don't know. I think there's some value to be had there going against him.
I definitely think that, and I don't think this, I mean, he hasn't been as good since basically the Memorial as we would expect. Maybe he needs a little bit of a spark. I'll take Patrick Cantlay. Greg, who do you like here?
I understand where Kyle's coming from here, and if to go with what I did with Webb and Bryson would be to go with Finau, because I think Finau has a pretty high floor here, but Cantlay I think is going to find a little bit of a spark this week. I'm not saying it's going to be a top 2 finish, but I do think he is going to edge out Tony Finau in a close one. I'm going to take Cantlay.
So that means Kyle is on Finau Island because Mark also took Patrick Cantlay and Mark took Bryson in the first matchup. Hideki Matsuyama back in action, -118 versus Las Vegas native, friend of the pod, Colin Morikawa, -112. Greg, we'll stay with you.
I'm going to go Morikawa here. I feel like he's the most underrated player in the field this week, based on the way that he's been kind of projected and rated. I'm going to give Morikawa better odds than Vegas does, no pun intended. I like Morikawa.
Nicely done, Kyle.
Yeah, Jupiter of the West resident Colin Morikawa. I'm gonna go with Hideki. I love Morikawa. I mean, you guys know, like, I love his game. I love everything about him. But Hideki's been kind of low key really good, and he was awesome at the U.S. Open. He was ball striking. He might have been second or third in the field in terms of strokes gained tee to green at the U.S. Open. So I don't know. I like him in this week, although I'll admit this is kind of a toss up for me.
I don't have it in front of me, but Hideki has like 7 top 25s in his last 8 starts or something, which usually wins you a lot of matchups, but I'll take Morikawa as well. So Kyle, you are on Hideki Island. You are on Tony Finau Island. You've got some, you can make up some ground here. Next up, Scotty Scheffler, who was the favorite last week in Jackson, going up against Matthew Wolff -118. I'll go first here. I love Matt Wolff. I mean, I just think he's going to bomb it all over the place. The game is getting sharper and sharper every week. Just absolutely love it. I'll take the Wolfman in this spot. Kyle.
By the way, I love how the guy who went 0-6 last week is talking about how I can beat that ground.
Every week is a new week, my man. That's so good.
I love Matt Wolff as well. I'm going to go with Scheffler, and the only reason is because I like guys I like the value of guys coming off of bad weeks. You know, he wasn't a terrible week. I think he's going to play his way back into it. I believe that I think he's like a top 20 type guy, and yeah, I'll take him against Matthew.
Both me and Scotty are going to play our way back into it this week after a bad week. Greg, okay, Mark took Wolff. I took Wolff. Kyle takes Scotty Scheffler. Greg, you're on.
Man, I never play the game this way. I don't do it, but I'm doing it here. I got to go Scheffler. I got to box out Kyle on another island.
Wow.
Just take a runaway here. I'm confident in Wolff. I feel like he's going to play really well, but I still need to see the consistency, which is the thing I'm looking for this year out of him. I'm definitely watching him to see if he can perform at a consistent level. Scheffler to me has proven he can compete at a consistent level. So going with I think a higher floor in Scotty Scheffler, I'm going to take him with Kyle.
This one to me is the most interesting. Jason Day -112 versus Ricky Fowler -118. I think by their own standards, the last year for both of these guys hasn't been all that great. Mark is going to take Jason Day. Greg, we'll stay here with you.
I'm going to go Ricky Fowler here. And again, I'm taking a flyer on it. I think Ricky's going to have a little bit of a comeback this year, and I hope that it starts this week. He does tend to like the desert. He plays well on some of these courses, some of the easy courses in the desert. We saw him win at the Waste Management. At the American Express Thursday and Friday, he had himself right in contention with a couple of low ones. So I'm expecting good things from Ricky. We've got to see him close one out. But I think he's going to have what it takes to beat Jason Day. This week, iron play to me is really important, and that's Jason Day's weakness. So I'm going to give Ricky an edge here.
I also think kind of on the eye test, Ricky Fowler has looked at times like he's close, maybe putting 2-3 rounds together, trying to figure it out. I'm also going to take Ricky Fowler. 4 trips to TPC Summerlin, 4 top 25s. He hasn't played here every single year, but when he does, it goes well. Kyle, Jason Day or Ricky Fowler?
I'm going Fowler. I thought there were moments at Winged Foot that he looked pretty good. So yeah, I'll go with him here over Jason Day.
Sung J M, this is our last matchup. Sung J M -125 versus Louis Oosthuizen at -106. Kyle, we'll go right back to you.
I'm gonna go with Sung J. I don't know. I never know what to do with Louis. Like like he doesn't win on the PGA Tour, right? Like he kind of contends in non-majors. I don't know that I would ever have a ton of confidence picking him in a something like this in a non-major championship because I don't know what I'm getting. So I'll go with Sung Jae.
It is interesting. I took Louis. Greg and I talked a lot about this on Monday's pod, which was like, Louis was, one of the most expensive golfers in fantasy. He was the second. He had the second shortest odds last week, and he didn't even play. And now you get like a much better value on him in the market. So I took Louis here, which I know it's against my Sungjae, love and religion, but I took Louis. Greg, who do you like here?
I take Sungjae here as well. To what Kyle said, you don't really know in non-majors. Louis is a pick I always like in major championships when you get him at great value. He doesn't quite run with the top prize guys. He doesn't run with the big boys. No pun intended. He's kind of a class below, yet he's at the top of his class. You call him in the B class. He's the top of the B class. He doesn't quite get into the A. So the value you get is great. When he gets into a field like this, because of his performance on some really hard golf courses and great fields, it kind of creeps up there. Yet I don't really see him compete when the scores get really, really low. So I like Sungjae here a little bit more than Louis. As big a fan as I am of Louis, I'm going to go Sungjae.
Mark took Louis. We brought Greg in at the halfway point, and we've got two no pun intendeds. Like we need to bring you in at the halfway point if we're going to get puns the whole time. This is the best version of Greg. This is phenomenal.
Hey, on his Vegas act.
He's going to get a residency at the Bellagio by the end of the episode.
Yeah, well, I used to winter in Jupiter, so I'm thinking it's time to move west.
Expert picks. Let's start with our sleepers. Kyle, yours is already in the outline. Thank you very much. And going back to a familiar name. Who is it?
Yeah, Will Zalatoris last week. He's 12-1, 15-1?
Yeah, it was short.
So he misses one cut, and he's 55. I get it. It's a better field. But listen, of all the guys in this field over the last 3 months, nobody, you can go to Data Golf, nobody has a better strokes gained tee to green number over the last 3 months. Now, some of that's Corn Ferry, and it's normalized by Data Golf to like compete with PGA Tour guys. I think we're underrating who he is, where he's at. 55-1 is a good number. If it was 35-1, I wouldn't be picking him, but 55-1, I think is a good number for him.
I do think that's interesting because he told us he was gassed. Honestly, you might be able to argue that missed cut was worth it to get a couple extra days rest heading into this one. I went with Denny McCarthy at 66-1. Mentioned this with Greg on Monday's pod. He's hitting the ball much better in his last 6 events since the 3M Open than he has in his entire career. He's still a great putter. This thing might turn into a putting contest. I think Denny McCarthy wins soon. I don't know if it's here, but I like him at 66-1. Greg, would you like to reveal your sleeper to the world?
Russell Henley. Russell Henley to me is kind of what we're looking for in an event like this, in that he is extremely strong with his iron play. Last year on the PGA Tour, he was 3rd approaching the green. His weakness would be his driving ability and his distance. And I think on a shorter course like this, that will matter less. His average drive last year was 290. And he did hit a lot of fairways, but he hits a lot of greens and he hits it close a lot. And that's where he makes a majority of his birdies. I would like to see a guy who putts a little bit better than Russell, but he can get really streaky. And so let's look for a signal of a streak. Where has his streak been? Well, it's been pretty good. I mean, you look at the Wyndham Championship last year, tied 9th, tied 8th at the Northern Trust, tied 25th at the BMW Championship. His form has been strong, and I think a little bit of rest probably did a good thing for him. So I think Russell Henley's going to come out hot this week.
Top 10 locks, and Greg, will stay here with you. This is a golfer that you referenced their high floor earlier in the episode, so it makes sense that this guy's your top 10 lock.
Yeah, Webb Simpson. He could be your top 10 lock just about every single week.
Yeah, every week.
It's all he does. I mean, the U.S. Open, he wasn't really part of the story. He shot 3 straight 71s. Nobody was really saying, well, watch out for Webb as the tournament went on. But just the consistency prevails. And by the time it ends, he's tied 8th. And it's not really anything that we talk about. Last year in 14 events, 8 top 10s. And to end the year, which I think everybody would kind of agree it was a slow finish to the year for Webb,
yes,
which included tied third at Wyndham, tied sixth at Northern Trust, tied 12th at the Tour Championship, and then tied eighth at the U.S. Open. So it's been kind of a slow run for Webb, yet here we are with just about everyone is inside the top 10. So
that's the crazy part. If you were just like, did Webb have a good stretch at the end of last year? You'd be like, no. And it's like 4 consecutive top 15s. He played well at Winged Foot, which he probably shouldn't have. Like it's crazy what this guy does. Kyle, speaking of crazy what this guy does, your top 10 lock is?
I've got the big boy.
Yeah, baby.
He's got 3 top 10s at this event. I think you can hedge this with big boy to miss the cut at 6-1, because I think sometimes what happens, we talked about this earlier with Molinari, sometimes you win a major championship and you just fall off the map over the next couple months. I don't think that'll happen with Bryson just because of what he's doing. I think he's super locked in. You've still got the Masters coming up, but I do like him to top 10 this week just because he's gonna have, Mark referenced it, like you got to be good with your wedges, but if you're Bryson, you have to be less good than everybody else, and especially here where it's just, you mentioned it at the end of last week, like you can just let it fly on so many holes on this course. So I got him in the top. You're not going to get a good number. I think it's plus 100, but I really like him to top 10 this week.
Yeah, I'll spoil it. He's my winner. Bryson is my pick to win. I usually don't like to bet the shortest guy in the field, but I could not make a case against Bryson. The only case you can make is the major championship hangover, which Bryson's wired different. He's just weird. Like he likes this stuff too much. He likes golf too much. He likes, I don't know. It's just different. So he's my pick to win. And then my top 10, I went with a little bit longer. I went with Christopher Ventura, who you can get at 7-1. He's got 2 top 10s in his last 3 starts. He's the unique guy that gains strokes off the tee and hits it far enough, and he putts well, which usually comes in handy in some of these, I don't want to call them birdie fest, but hey, 20, 21 under par, that's what it might end up being.
You talk about last week that had that skill set.
It was probably Patrick Rogers.
Yeah, that was it. That's right.
Yeah. Who played himself out of it in the first 5 holes. And then as Greg mentioned on Monday, he played great for the last 27, but it was too little too late.
Yeah. I like that. If you're looking for another, he could be another sleeper. I don't know if he has really the win equity this week, but he's definitely a guy, as we said yesterday, I would definitely put him in a fantasy lineup coming off of basically a bad 5-hole stretch.
Yeah. All right. I've got to dive into both of your picks to win here because I think they're very interesting for different reasons. Honestly, I thought they were switched. I thought Greg's was Kyle's and Kyle's was Greg, looking at who these picks to win are. Greg, we'll start with you. Colin Morikawa, he's 20-1. I tried to make the case on Monday that his ability to hit fairways doesn't matter as much here, and you kind of shot me down on that. And the more I thought about it, I think you're right.
Well, so there's definitely an advantage for an accurate hitter when the rough gets long. But Morikawa is more than just accurate off the tee. His biggest asset is not his driving accuracy. It's his iron play. It's his approach game. And as fairways get wider and rough gets lower, golf courses turn into second shot golf courses. When fairways get really narrow and rough gets high, they turn into first shot golf courses. Whether it's distance or accuracy, the tee shot becomes the most important thing. This week, the second shot becomes the most important thing because everybody's going to be in a place where they can approach the green. So whose game is the best suited to approach these greens? Well, Colin Morikawa. There was only one player on tour last year who was better approaching the greens than him, and he's not in the field this week. That's Justin Thomas. And to me, Colin Morikawa is the guy. And the odds, I can't believe the odds. I can't get over it. It's like he doesn't play well at a U.S. Open, misses a cut at a U.S. Open, which he's not the only one to do, and all of a sudden his game is in shambles, and he's now 20-1 to win. So I look at that as he's had a little bit of rest, and he's one of the Vegas guys, and I think that you're going to see him perform really well this week.
That was what kind of stood out to me on Monday when the odds came out. I thought he should have been the third shortest. He was 22. He's been bet down to 20. He's still kind of in that same range with a few other golfers. And Kyle, I had to do a double take on this one. Your pick to win is a guy who would break a very interesting curse if he were to do it.
I know. I believe in Tony Finau. I probably was probably irrational, but he's been playing so great. 2 top 10s in his last 3 starts. 1 at the U.S. Open, 1 at the BMW Championship. I don't care what he did at the fake Tour Championship, the shadow leaderboard. He's been hitting it great. And look, he's somebody who scores a ton. I mean, he just scores and scores and scores. And if the putter is halfway decent, I think he's going to have a huge week. So I love him this week. It's a low key place to get the win that he's kind of looking for. But it's a good enough field to get his attention. I think he's going to be good.
We'll keep an eye on him. Greg certainly will. I thought that was Greg's pick to win for a second. Gentlemen.
I like it.
I know you do. We're going to go quick here. Rapid fire on one and done. You're not required to put this pick in, but where are you leaning, Kyle?
This one's tough. Probably Finau, just because he's my pick to win. But I might talk myself into, because I might say Finau for later. I mean, it's such a long season. I might go somewhere. I've already used Zalatoris, but somebody in that range, like the 50 to 1. But I'll probably end up going Finau.
I agree. This is difficult because there's really no natural fits, and a lot of the guys at the top I'd prefer to save. I think it might be Patrick Cantlay for me. I think he's the most natural. I don't like that he hasn't been playing as well recently, so I'm kind of torn on that. But I think he makes a lot of sense. Greg, who do you like?
I'm with you, Rick. Patrick Cantlay is my guy. I understand the question marks, but is it really that bad? I mean, tied 12th at the BMW, tied 43rd at the U.S. Open, and we all know how a U.S. Open can go. So I don't look at that as a negative. I think a little time off is good. He's coming back to a place he's clearly comfortable. I don't think the signs of recent form are bad enough to avoid him, and he is the natural fit, as you said.
Best bets. Greg, you've kind of alluded to this one. It is Webb Simpson to finish in the top 10 at plus 150, right?
Yeah, I normally like matchups. I find these top 10, top 5s to be a little tight at times. Like the odd, you don't really get a lot of breathing room. But with Webb to be plus 150 to top 10, I mean, to me, it's the lock of the week. So I'm going to call it my best bet as well.
There you go. You heard it here first. Lock it up. KP, do you have a best bet?
You have to pay for this subscription, Greg? I got 2 for you. I got Russell Henley top 10. I think he's plus 500. And then Bryson to miss the cut at 6 to 1. I really like both of those. I don't think Bryson will miss the cut, but I do think there's a world that he could.
I do kind of like when you first said that, I was like, I'm going to just match my Bryson to win ticket with like the same odds for him to miss the cut, because those feel like the 2 most likely outcomes. Like he doesn't finish T35 here ever.
No chance. No.
I went super freaky. I went with Christopher Ventura to be a top 3 European at 2 to 1, which means he's going up against the likes of Sergio Garcia, Paul Casey, Henrik Stenson, Rafa Cabrera Bello. He'll finish in the top 3. He'll cash that 2 to 1 ticket. Gentlemen, Las Vegas, much appreciated. We'll do it all again from Vegas next week. We'll still do round by round this week, and maybe a little bit something new. We'll see what producer Jacob has in mind behind the glass. Thank you to Greg Ducharme, who you can find on Twitter at @TheRealGFD. Thanks to Kyle Porter, who you can find at Kyle Porter CBS. You can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut, and we'll catch you next time.